Today I'm going to talk about some autobiographies because, it's one of my favorite things is autobiographies. This one is Bruce Campbell, If Chins Could Kill, Confessions of a B-Movie Actor. This is a very funny book. It's also very informative. I mean, you get the sense that Bruce Campbell's really trying to teach, younger people about filmmaking and what it's like to get into it and how crazy it is, and he's very honest with it, but he pokes fun at it the whole way. It's very self-deprecating, a lot of really self-deprecating humor in it, but it's such a funny book. I can't even do it justice. After I read it again. I just read it a second time because it was so funny. And there's a lot of times where he gets way off topic, like there's one chapter where it's all about his car and just all the trouble that has happened to his car, and it's just a complete piece of shit car, and then he sells it to somebody else and then they have no problems with it at all. There's a lot of visual aid about the filmmaking process and about certain camera techniques that Sam Raimi used. Just great for education's sake, and it's a great sense of humor too. Then of course there's this one, just since I'm on the topic of Bruce Campbell, is Make Love the Bruce Campbell Way. And this one isn't an autobiography, this is actually a fiction book. So this is totally just a complete farce, but you could see it as a movie. It's basically about he gets this job on a film as a doorman. He's not unlike Spider-Man in any way, but it's basically he's on a big budget film, but he's playing a small part, and the book is all about his process that he goes through. And it's just a bunch of silly stuff, but I'd recommend the If Chins Could Kill, though. That's the one that you should read if you're going to read only one. Then there's I Am Jackie Chan, which is one of the best books I ever read in my life. It's one of the best autobiographies. I mean, I also mentioned I Am Ozzy in the metal category, so I didn't know whether to put Ozzy in the metal one or the autobiography one. So I just wanted to mention it again just in case, because it's between these two. These are two of the best books I've ever read. Jackie Chan has also led a really crazy life. You see his movies and you take for granted a lot of times like the kind of things he went through, and a lot of it is about growing up in the Chinese theater and the way they would train the kids. They actually treated them really terrible. Like they wouldn't feed him very well, and they beat the shit out of him. Like if he did something wrong, he'd try to do a flip and he'd like break his jaw or whatever. It was like then the teacher would be like, oh, well, that's what you get for fucking up, basically. It's just horrible stuff that they did to these kids. And one time there's this one story that sticks out when basically the teacher would send them out to see a performance, and they give them enough money just for the bus and for the show, and that's it. They didn't have any money for food, and one time they were just really hungry and they wanted to eat. So Jackie Chan decides, well, hey, let's sneak onto the bus and let's not pay the bus fare, and then we're going to use that money to get some food. And they did it, and then on the way back, basically they got caught, and the bus was going to take them to the police department. And then Jackie Chan realized, well, hey, if this happens, the teacher is going to, we're going to be in some serious trouble. So they have to get off this bus. And basically Jackie Chan leads them all the kids up to the top of the bus while it's moving, and they jump off the bus. And the way it's written, it is so cinematic. You can just see it just like a Jackie Chan movie. Is like he writes, in the second before I hit the ground, the only thought in my head was, why did I jump head first? It was all all the training. I mean, he knew to jump head first and roll. It was just some crazy stuff. And there's a lot of antagonists in this book. Like if you were to make a movie, it's almost like villains, because you have these movie executives that were trying to pigeonhole him into being the next Bruce Lee, and he didn't want that. Obviously he wasn't Bruce Lee, and they were trying to force him to be. And a lot of times when he was making the films, like there was just they were just overriding his creative vision, and he was fighting for his vision and what he believed in. And he's also had run-ins with gangsters, real gangsters, and has had all kinds of near-death experiences. I mean, his life is like, the things he went through is just like one of the movies he was in. And when he does his stunts, like he talks about what it was like. I mainly remember when he's like hanging off the clock in Project A. You know, if you think he's not scared of that stuff, that he's just, you know, he has no fear, not true. He was scared shitless when he was doing all that stuff. And he goes into detail and explains how long it took him to get the courage to do some of those stunts. And also there's a lot about coming to America and adapting to a new country and learning a language that he's not familiar with. And it's just great stories. And you also get the sense from reading it that his heart is wide open, that he has a kind soul, very genuine person, that he cares about people and he cares about the world. And amazing book. I Am Jackie Chan. Could not recommend it enough. Read it, even if you're not a big fan. Then there's Alfred Hitchcock. This is a biography. This isn't his own words, but I just thought I'd include it because I have it. The reason I got this book when I was doing a paper for a psychology class, and when I was in that class, basically you had to pick basically any kind of person, basically just like psychoanalyze him. So that was what this was all about, because Hitchcock had so many things going on in his head. Had a lot of phobias. He was afraid of driving. He was afraid of police officers. Like he put all his fears into his film. So I thought it was great for the psychology class. Of course, it was also to make the paper a lot more fun, because I'm a big fan of Hitchcock. Then also there's this one. I didn't finish reading this one all the way yet, but Tough Shit, Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith has written quite a few books, and writing is he has a really good skill for writing and talking. I mean, he has a way with words, and there's a lot, it's kind of just a funny, silly book, but it really has a lot of great life advice in this. I mean, let me just pick something out here as an example. So page 16, this is a really good motivational part. He says, you got to start with the idea that you can do this, something that's not normally done by everybody else. Since it's not second nature to take leaps of faith, you have to motivate yourself. You got to embrace a reasonable amount of unreasonability, because what you're saying is, I'm going to try this thing that very few people attempt, let alone succeed in doing. And I love this one on page 28. There's something that really stuck with me that's very true, is just that you go into filmmaking and you get more than you bargain for. Like you might really, like, I'm making a feature film here, and I really went way over my head with it. That it was basically, it's like a much tougher battle than I expected. And then years later you're thinking about it and you're like, wow, this whole thing started, I was just like, hey, let's make a film. He says, imagine your plan was to walk down to the convenience store to get some chocolate milk, and while there, you were gifted with an entire milk production facility to run, complete with chocolatizer for all the milk. You want chocolate milk? You got chocolate milk, kid. And from that moment forward, for 20 years, chocolate milk became your life. The making of, sampling of, bottling of, vending of, marketing of, balance sheets of, and while you love it all, this unexpected gift of a thriving chocolate milk concern every once in a while, in the midst of it all, you think, how'd I get here? All I wanted was some chocolate milk. He has a whole chapter about the trouble he had at the airport one time when he was kicked off a plane, and then there's also an entire chapter about how he says Bruce Willis is an asshole, and that how working with him was a nightmare, and it's very disheartening. It's a shame he had such a bad experience with Bruce Willis, but anyway, that's all for today.